Ngayon, i-discuss namin yung power ng journaling kasama ng kaibigan ko si Laika.
Yeah, for whoever is listening, you get to hear what I wrote to myself.
If someone wants to get started in journaling, what are 3 things that you recommend?
You know, whatever you're feeling, write it down, write it down, write it down.
I just want to take a moment to introduce myself. And I was born and raised here in Canada. That's why yung Tagalog ko ay mayroong English accent. Hindi perfecto yung Tagalog ko, but it's important for me to want to learn a lot more. It's become more important to me kasi mayroon akong mga dalawang anak. Yung asawa ko ay Italiana, and so mga anak namin ay Italifinos. And so I think that as I get older and that I'm a second generation Filipino-Canadian, and then mayroon akong third generation Filipino-Italianos, like I kind of feel like part of this YouTube channel and why I'm choosing to use Taglish or some English is so that matuto ako and maybe matuto din yung mga anak ko. And so, but first, pupunta ako sa Costco kasama ng asawa ko. Hi. I was just saying that I didn't tell you that I wanted to like try to kind of do a pilot right now and film at this moment. Like, okay, see what happens? Now my wife is walking away. No, she's not. She's throwing something in the garbage. I don't know if she's ready for this life, having a camera. All right, so we are back home. It's actually a couple days since Costco, and just been kind of busy. And before I sit down to read the first story and share the first story with you today, I just want to introduce you to our family. This is what's your name?
Bella?
Is that a question?
A cousin, maybe?
It's my name is Bella.
Bella.
And what's your name, sir?
Jaya?
Is that a question?
No.
No, this is Bella and Josiah.
Why are you doing that for one second?
What am I doing what?
Why are you doing it?
I'm introducing you to our new friends
What? Who new friends?
on YouTube.
What friend?
I don't know. Ask them what their name is.
I do Jaya.
Jaya, well, your face is covered in chocolate.
I just had a cookie. Chocolate.
You just had a cookie? Did you like the cookie?
I don't like you.
What?
I don't like them and you.
Okay, I'm sorry. He doesn't like y'all. Woo! That is first impressions for you, huh?
I don't like all of you. I don't like all of you.
Oh boy. Okay, so
He's been social
they're not.
distancing. A little
Yeah,
too
he's
long.
taking social distancing to the next level. So I'm just gonna show you to my desk. This is where I sit. Boom, boom. Right here. This is where I, do most of my video chats, or my edit videos and everything like that. And so earlier today, I sat down with Laika over Zoom, and we had a conversation about the power of journaling. So you're gonna see our Zoom chat that was pre-recorded earlier, and it's in its entirety. I was decided, you know what? I'm not gonna chop this up. For this channel, I'm just gonna leave it all in there. You could fast forward, rewind, as you wish, and maybe journaling is something that would be helpful for you.
What would you tell your younger self? Laika was born with many firsts. She was the firstborn in her family and the first to be born in Canada. Being the firstborn in a Filipino-Canadian family comes with a set of power and privileges over younger siblings and cousins. However, this place of birth order also comes with a high level of expectations and responsibilities. There are words that exist in the Filipino national language Tagalog that have no perfect English translation. To most people, ate simply means older sister, and kuya simply means older brother. In actuality, ate and kuya is a relationship that is much deeper. Ate really means motherly sister, and kuya means fatherly brother. Older siblings and cousins are expected to display a level of love, concern, and care to the same levels of that as a parent. Like many other ates and kuyas, Leica felt the pressure to perform and behave in certain ways in order to model what was expected for her younger siblings and cousins. This meant doing everything perfect inside and outside of school in order to be a good example. This often meant pretending to be someone that she was not. As a result, Leica couldn't always be herself. As a way of processing her childhood, Leica shared, quote, I have written a letter to my younger self. I'll read it to you, end quote. In the letter, Leica told her younger self to be strong and to be brave and to keep moving forward without the pressure of pretending to be perfect. We strive to be our best. Sometimes we make mistakes and we learn from them. It's those mistakes that we can teach others not to do the same. Today, Leica is not just a role model for her siblings and cousins, but Leica is now a fashion model in both Canada and USA. She loves to play music and sing. When inspired, she often writes journals and diaries that chronicles her journey. My takeaways: 1, we're not perfect. 2, we learn from mistakes. 3, writing letters to our younger selves have healing power. So now I ask you, if you could travel back in time, what would you tell your younger self? All right, so that's what I wrote on my Instagram post at 1,000 Stories Project. We now have Leica on a Zoom call so that she could share in details, like her perspective on the story. Leica, thank you again for being on this podcast / YouTube channel.
No problem.
Yeah, let's start from the beginning. Where does your story with regard to this begin?
Well, it pretty much started whenever I was still in the womb. When people found out that, my mom was gonna have a baby, and that baby is me. So I guess it kind of um, challenged everyone, I guess, in my family and like the people surrounding my family. What I guess it was gonna be like to start a new journey with like parenthood and basically just caring for another person in a different culture and a different country, I guess you can say, because both my parents are immigrants from Philippines, and they came here when they're around like my age right now, so like 19, 20. um yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah,
So
like I think a lot of people can relate, at least for those of us in Canada, from having parents coming from another culture in another country and
yeah.
navigating through what that looks like here in Canada. So the huge part of the narrative was the whole ate and kuya thing. Can you expand on it for those who aren't Filipino, again, in your own words, like what that means to you?
So what it means basically is, yeah, having that role and responsibility of not only like an older sibling or like someone to look up to, but it's more like another um, kind of like a parent figure, you can say. Um, it's not like a tita or a tito, like it's someone like closer. I guess you can say closer in age to you, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. But it can be someone who you have that close relationship with. And it's similar to like, I don't want to say like your parents, but like they have that closer connection with you as your parents do. Or like there's like this in between stage between like where you can be open with someone, so you kind of consider them to be your ate or your kuya.
So you could tell an ate kuya things more than you would a parent, but they're still looking out for you.
Yeah, basically.
So when did that kind of concept clue in for you?
I think that kind of came into play when I started having like more in-depth conversations with like my brother and like my younger cousins, and they would ask me questions about like life, like what it would be like in high school, or like what are the kinds of things like you'll experience like as you get older and stuff, and like how they deal with their problems. So that's kind of when I felt
Okay.
like
So
that.
you it came to fruition more when you started to realize you're pouring into them. Like, did your parents like teach you that concept growing up? Like, oi, you're an ate.
Yeah, like my dad kind of put that in place for me when I was younger, saying that, that's why it's kind of like I had to like kind of block off a section of who I was in order to like guide my cousins and um like the people around me like in a direction where like, um not that they won't make mistakes, because everyone makes mistakes, but like so they at least have a guide of like where they want to go with life, even if it's not sharing like too many details, because I know like with personal relationships, you kind of know that person, what they can handle, like what kind of information they can handle. So you kind of just block off any extra stuff that you don't need to say, I guess you can say.
So, what types of things from a younger age, like, is there certain behaviors from a Filipino family, or from at least your Filipino family, that they're expecting you to model? Like, some families, they have a greeting routine. Like, you have to hug, you have
Hmm.
to, like, do the blessing in the head, all these other Filipino things. Is that something that you experienced?
Yeah, that's something that my dad kind of put into place for me, saying that it was to show respect for people who are older, or like, that's kind of just our tradition and culture to do back in the Philippines, where you would greet your elders with like mano po and everything. So like with my dad's side of the family, I said like I started using po more, but I don't know at that time, because they told me at such a weird age where it's like it didn't feel natural for me to keep saying it, because I haven't said it before until then. So then I'm like, okay, this is weird. I can't keep saying it. But now that I meet strangers, I actually do say it, or like I greet them in that way.
That way. So, by the way, for those
Yeah.
non-Filipinos, greeting older people in your life, maybe not ates and kuyas, but definitely
Mhm.
titos and titas, which are aunts and uncles and grandparents, lolos and lolas. Like, you come into the door, you take their hand, and you pop it on your forehead, and it's a blessing. Like, you're taking their hand, and it's a transfer of blessing. And yeah, as a second generation Filipino, it's kind of hard to navigate through those intricate expectations. So when did it become noticeably hard for you, or a challenge for you, to, because you're sectioning off a part of your life from your cousins? When did like kind of juggling those two things become apparent to you?
Well, it was always like apparent to me ever since I was allowed to go out with my friends and everything. So then I kind of seen the difference between hanging out with friends and then hanging out with family. So that's kind of where um, I was able to see like the switch, and like kind of um, the difference of what I share with friends than with like what I share with my family, kind of thing.
Hmm. Okay, so I'm assuming this is like in high school, or what? How old are you at this point?
I was actually pretty young. I was like probably around grade 6.
Oh
Yeah,
wow.
yeah. So that's when I first went out with my friends, because I had older friends who were in grade 8. So
Hmm.
that's kind of where like um I was experiencing more things at an early age. So that's why I say like when I talk to my younger cousins, it's different with them than with me, because um I started things off like really young. Now that I look back at it, grade 6, you're like what, you're like 12, or I don't even know,
Maybe.
11. Yeah, so
Yeah,
that's
12,
kind
11,
of,
12.
yeah, so that's kind of when I started first going. Well, that was my first time going. I went to Yorkdale with my friends. And
Wow.
it's like, I know, big trip. Yeah.
That's
So
pretty
it's like,
relaxed Filipino families there, parents there. I mean, 11, 12. I couldn't go to Yorkdale when I was 11 or 12.
yeah. Um, well, it's, yeah, that's why it's so like different, because um since my parents are like separated, like both sides of my family are really different.
Hmm.
Um, so when I say like I talk to my cousins and stuff, it's from my dad's side of the family, and more on my dad's side of the family, they're more like strict Filipinos, while on my mom's side, they're like more of the relaxed kind of like, I don't know, the the chill kind of Filipinos, I guess you can say.
Okay. So
So
at this point, okay, now you said there's a switch going on. You're like, okay, there's the Leica when I'm with my friends, and there's the Leica when I'm with my family. Um, how different was this person, and who? And you don't need to go into details into what you're up to, but like, I'm just trying to get into the navigating through those two versions of yourself. Like,
yeah.
what was it like navigating, like who you were?
So with the Leica, with her friends, she's more outgoing and she's more open. She likes to talk about a lot of things concerning like life in general, I guess you can say. I don't know, I just, with my friends, I'm more open and I talk a lot more than with my family. With my family, I'm really shy and conservative. I kind of hide behind my cousins. Um, yeah, because I don't want to seem like too much. Um, yeah, so with my family, I'm more quiet and reserved.
Wow. Okay. So you're more free with your friends, reserved with your family, and does this go on throughout middle school and high school?
So I guess more into high school. Um, that's when I became more also open with my family. Um, just because I was getting older, so it's like, I can actually start being myself because I'm not at such a young age where it's like, oh, you're like thinking like this stuff, you're so young. And it's like, you don't know anything about that. So that's why I kind of sheltered my way of thinking at that age until I got older. So then I was able to talk more about other things with them.
Okay. So was the true version of like the one with your family, the one with your friends, or was it something in the middle?
Yeah, so I would say I wasn't really hiding my true self with any. It's just a different part of me that's being seen with both sides of my friends and my family.
Hmm. So
Yeah.
it wasn't either or, it was just different parts of you depending where you were.
Basically.
Okay. So when did things start to change in regard to not having to do that anymore? So you said you were starting to be more open with your family. Like, what does that mean? And how did you come to that?
Well, in high school, uh, I guess you can say I was like a rebellious kid. I did a lot of going out late and kind of like not telling my mom where I was, kind of thing. And I would just come home really late all the time, all the time. And even now, like, well, like not now because we're in quarantine, but like, um, yeah, I would always come home late and kind of leave my mom wondering where I was. But then I was like, hey, why would I still need to worry her? Like, she's gonna just keep getting mad at me. So might as well just say like where I am and what I'm doing, you know? And the worst she can do is just say to come home. So so yeah, I was just like, okay, why do I need to hide? So I was like, I would just tell my mom, yeah, I'm with my friends. That's it.
Okay. So
Yeah.
one big thing in your story is journaling and
Hmm.
writing to yourself. Like when did that start to happen?
That's been happening ever since, I would say, grade 8. I started to write a lot more because, like I said, my parents were separated. So it was a way for me to let out my feelings um, with that situation, like how I was feeling. So it was easier for me to pour out my feelings, writing it down, rather than trying to express it with other people who, at the time, I thought wouldn't understand what I was going through.
So where did you get the idea to start writing it down? Did someone tell you that? Did you watch it on a video? Or is there a teacher?
Yeah, I actually, sorry, do you hear all that?
It's cool. I can get it. It's fine. It's a Zoom call.
Okay. Um, yeah, so basically, um, my friend, she was in therapy, she was like a year younger than me. So she was in grade 7 and she was in therapy. Um, so she was telling me how like um she was told to write things down to let her feelings out too. So I decided to try that and it actually helped me. So whenever I was feeling a kind of way, I would just write it down and then I would look back at it and I'd laugh now. But it's it helped a lot and I still do it now.
You still do. Wow. So since grade 8, you still journal. Is it a daily thing or a weekly thing? When you're inspired, how often do you journal?
Yeah, whenever I'm inspired to write, basically. Now it's different. I kind of started video journaling now, so I would talk in front of my webcam and then I would kind of just save it into my files. Um, so I do both. I write and I talk in front of the camera.
So when you talk to the camera, are you talking to yourself and for your future self to talk back to you?
Yeah, I'm just kind of just talking to myself and then rewatching it back to see not only like um, what I was feeling that day, but more so how I've grown throughout the time. Um, Seeing how like I handle situations now like differently than I used to before.
hmm That's so cool. Like, I mean, I've heard of journaling as a recommendation. I guess it's funny that I'm doing 1,000 stories and I'm writing stories. I don't like to write. Maybe I should try talking to myself
Yeah,
uh, and processing. Okay, so when we first met over the 1,000 Story Project, I was going to ask you what you would tell your younger self, and you happen to have already done that. Um,
yeah.
when did you start writing? Because you said you started writing in grade 8. When did you start writing to your past self, to your younger self?
I kind of just did that like one or two times actually. That's probably grade 10 maybe that I wrote that. And I was going through a very hard time during that time. Um, Now that I look back at it, I don't even know what I was like raging over, but um, I think it's because um, I was just getting to know who Christ was in that time and who God was. And when I was finding out more about Him, um, I was kind of in that state where it's like um, I look at other people and it's like, or I even look at myself and it's like, how can we live up to this person? How can we live up to Jesus and say, like I'm a hypocrite. Like we all say like it's kind of like, yeah, we believe in him, but how come we do so many wrong things? and we keep doing those wrong things over and over again. But at the same time, it's like we're human and we're bound to make mistakes. So that's kind of how, from back then to now, that I've seen my growth, because it's learning to accept our faults and learning to be okay with being human because we're not perfect. So that's kind of where I had to like flip the switch from uh, the way I was thinking before to now, basically.
Wow. And so you wrote yourself a letter to yourself twice, and you actually ended up reading it to me. I was surprised that you did. Thank you. Did you said you weren't? Are you cool with reading it here still? I mean, giving you an out. You don't have to.
I'm trying to look for it right now.
Okay. Yeah, it's so interesting that in grade 10 you're like, I'm gonna write this for myself, and then as you get older, you're like, you know what? I'm gonna share it for the YouTubes, for whoever's listening.
Yeah, for whoever is listening, you get to hear what I wrote to myself.
So this is from grade 10 talking to your grade 5 self, grade 4 self?
Honestly, I have no idea. I think it was just for my future self to read for that time, actually.
Okay.
I guess for both present or future and past.
You're like a time traveler. This practice of journaling.
I know.
My current self is going to record a video for my future self that talks about my younger self. I'm like, and this is therapeutic. This is like would drive me insane.
Yeah, it helps a lot, actually. Okay, so this is my letter to myself. Just remember, you will never be the same person as you were yesterday. You will constantly be growing and evolving mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and even physically. I'm glad to see that you made it past the very hard and rough turbulence, because I know how many times you wanted to give up. But look at where you are now. You are accomplishing many great and wonderful things that you never could imagine you'd do. Just know that it's okay to be quiet and observant, because it becomes a special trait you have that not so many people pick up on. Why can't I read? Oh, pick up on. Laika, you are one intelligent and beautiful little girl. Don't let anyone ever tell you otherwise. You may not say much now because of all the negativity in your life that you just want to bottle up your emotions and cry to sleep. But I promise you it does get better. I know how many times you've prayed to God asking why. Why do bad things happen to good people? I don't believe that anymore, but okay. Why can't I not think? Why can't I just be happy for once? Why can't I just live? Well, you may not think God hears you, but He will eventually answer those prayers. Whatever hurt you've been feeling, whatever negativity you've been breathing, all goes away, all because you chose to make a choice. That changed the whole game. You don't realize how much of an important role you play in other people's lives, how much you impact their choices and decisions. You become the light in other people's darkness. You use your experiences to help others. You use the gift that God has given you to uplift others and to help them finally realize that life is worth living if you choose to live it. Don't let darkness overtake you. There's so much living and so much more people to save. You are a light that no one can break. If you continue on a path to true happiness, God will not only be satisfied, but will bless you with more than you could ever ask for. Life goes on, and so should you. Continue to embrace who you are and live life. Continue to appreciate all the little things and all that life has to offer. With all this said, always stay humble and true to who you are, because it's within yourself that you find true happiness.
Wow. Thank you for sharing. How often have you looked back at this letter, if at all?
Not until recently that you told me to read it. So it really brought up a lot of wow, it's crazy.
So what do you mean by wow and crazy?
Like that to see that I would write that to myself at that age and like in that point in time of my life, that I would write that for myself.
Can you help describe to someone like me who doesn't journal what healing power that gives?
I guess at the time of writing something, you never realize how much importance or how much of an impact it can make for you, in any point and given time where you choose to look back at it. That's why before I would always say that, whatever you're feeling, write it down, write it down, write it down. Even if it doesn't mean anything to you at that time, when you look back at it, it can have so much more meaning to you now than before.
Awesome. So to wrap things up, if someone wants to get started in journaling, what are 3 things that you recommend they do?
I guess to start journaling, you don't need to write any like big entries. You don't need to write anything that's like crazy. Just write your day-to-day life, what it's been like for you, even if it's not writing it down. Yeah, recording yourself. Not only do you get to see or like read again what you've like wrote in the past, but if you video yourself, you can also see the growth in what you look like, the change in your environment, even the tone of your voice. You can tell if you were happy, sad, however you were feeling in that moment in time. Another thing that will help, or that can help start you journaling. You don't need to journal or write every single day. You can write whenever you feel like writing. It doesn't need to be a chore. Definitely do it as something for you that you want to do.
Okay, so you've said 1 is to keep it short. Don't feel like it has to be a long thing. 2 is saying you don't have to put the pressure of doing it every day.
Oh yeah, and 3, keep it somewhere safe. So you know where you put it all the time. Keep it where you can find it.
Like, have you ever been concerned about other people finding it?
That could be a thing for you. For me, it's like, honestly, I'll leave my stuff wherever. Yeah, but my mom has found some letters that I wrote in the past. It's definitely led to life-changing things, but it's also helped our relationship. So that's kind of also why I started journaling, because I couldn't say it in person, so I'd write it down and leave it for whoever else to read.
That is
Yeah.
awesome. All right, so I think you said basically keep it short, keep it simple, and keep it safe.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for doing this.
Thank you for having me.
If people wanted to reach you, where can they reach you?
If you guys want to reach me, you guys can DM me on Instagram at Lyka Macy, LYKAMAEC.
So that concludes this first episode.
Yeah,
Honestly,
just reach
if
me
you're
there.
still here at this point of the
Awesome.
video,
All
and you
right,
haven't
I'll see
subscribed
you.
yet, you might as well
Bye.
press subscribe, hit the notification button, and I'll see you in the next video.